A zero emissions world is of course an objective, but you require a transition. You need to be able to get there. And I think that business leadership plays a fundamental role in the sense that greening the economy implies developing the technologies that can permit you to move from what we call the brown economy to a green economy. And that requires investments, but above all, I would say it requires understanding that if we are going to have a sustainable development framework in the world, it's going to be because the enterprises are able to produce the technologies and the products that are going to change our consumption, our production base. And that requires business leadership, and there's a lot of it around. There's a lot of people have understood that you need to move in that direction. The role of the ILO in ensuring that we move towards a green economy, a sustainable development framework, is to look at the issue of the enterprise. You know, we have employers, we have the business people, we have the workers, we have the trade unions, and we have governments. So you have the real actors of the economy. This is going to be a complex transition. An enormous amount of new jobs, and we hope decent jobs, good work, decent work, will be created as a result of all of the technological changes and new production patterns. But you're also going to have the downside. You are going to have technologies that we no longer want to be around. Enterprises are going to close, workers are going to be affected. So our point is, let's start, worrying about that issue and thinking together, what is it that we do about the downside? And we offer a methodology, which is the way in which the ILO has built itself and has made its contribution to the world of work, which is dialogue, social dialogue, tripartism, put governments, business, and workers together. If you're talking about it in the context of a particular enterprise, who is either going to grow because of the new technologies and opportunities, or is going to be affected by the changes, let's talk around it. Let's see what are the best ways of dealing with it. But you always need public policy. You're going to need regulatory in order to create the spaces, and you're going to need public policy to deal with the downsides in terms of unemployment benefits, in terms of social protection, in terms of retraining for new activities. And that's what we're working at with UNEP, and we call it the Green Jobs Initiative. So thinking about the future, dialoguing around it, and making sure that we don't forget that there's going to be a downside. The way forward, I think, is understanding that we need a balance. You need a balance between the democratic voice of society, where is it that all of us want to go, and you have democratic systems and ways of expressing the feelings around these issues, and we know there's a strong environmental movement, but more and more it's much more than that. It's people understanding that these changes are needed. The second is the regulatory function of the state. For the last 25, 30 years, we have been told that you have to reduce the state and deregulate. That this is the mantra. And Nicholas Stern, in an extraordinary study that he made, former chief economist of the World Bank and a reputed UK economist, said, look, the environment is probably the biggest market failure that we have today. So the regulation, the fact that states are there to regulate the market in an appropriate way, in a balanced way, in a manner that doesn't, stifle, an economic process, is essential. So you have the will of the people to the democratic voice of society, you have the regulatory capacity of the state, and then you have the productive function of the market. But there again, recognizing that as absolutely essential, you find a situation today in which the amount of liquidity available, which would be very important in order to finance the type of enterprises that we're talking about and the type of decent work that we're talking about, are somehow being siphoned off to the financial economy. And you have a sort of a growing disconnect between the financial economy and the real economy. It's difficult to describe yourself as a leader. I believe in all of this. I think that it's absolutely essential to move forward. I think that because of the responsibilities I have today as head of the International Labour Organization, which is this tripartite organization of governments, employers, and workers, there is a responsibility for the institution to be thinking of how you have to do this, and there, of course, I have to play a certain function. I'm part of the team.